and there. Nope. No, you're not. Hold on. Go back there.
It's cool. 5 people are on it. 6.
How do I get out of there? Hello, everybody. We're trying to share just a little bit. There.
Are you hearing yourself?
Yep, I'm hearing myself on the phone. Hello, everybody. There you go. Now you can do it. Okay. Technical stuff. Yep, I'm hearing myself on the phone. We got audio, y'all. We got some video. Got some audio. Technical stuff. Getting the loop going on. All right. So I think Monty's going to start us off while people are gathering with some Qigong. If you want to settle in for the moment and take some deep breaths with us. Happy Friday. We have made it to April 2nd, 2021. Believe it or not, we are here in the future. Right?
No. At the moment.
Well, it's the future compared to 20 years ago when we couldn't imagine this. And I would go, gee, I wonder what I want to manifest. And here we are.
So if we're ready, I can start recording whenever. 20 years ago. Whenever you want.
Should we?
That's all.
Is that what you're asking? Okay. Okay. I mean, yeah, go ahead and start and we're ready. So we have Mindflow Radio live for you today out there. We will be sharing a song with you. We're going to have a conversation and share a little guided meditation. It's probably only going to be about a 30-minute show, so that's our goal today. We'll see. So if you can hang out with us and enjoy, that's awesome. If you'd like, share on your page. I know this is on YouTube too, so yes, send it out. However you're finding us, send it out, give it to your friends, because your friends deserve some mindful moments, some mindful entertainment. Mindful entertainment is an interesting bit, right? It's hard to find mindful entertainment. So that's kind of part of why we do what we do, because we think it's worth it. We think it's worth having mindful choices. So sometimes you just gotta create the mindful choice. It's helpful. Big shout out to Steven. Hey, thanks for watching. All right. So this first one is called Wayanti. It is one of the oldest chants around. Wayanti Kayanti Jagadutapati Adekaitawa Brahma Dev to walk your path. You are the one to know your truth. You can find your teachers and guides, and you can find the wisdom too. Have the courage to see all the sides. You know it all starts with you. You are the one to walk your path. You are the one to know your truth. You can find your teachers and guides, and you can find the wisdom too. Have the courage to see all the sides. You know it all starts with you. Vayanti Karyanti Jagadutapati Adagaitawa Brahmadeya Tresha Itawa Hey Guru Waheguru, 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 Waheguru. Celebrate, celebrate the divine within you. Celebrate, celebrate the divine within you. Celebrate, 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 yeah. Celebrate, 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 yeah. Celebrate, 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 yeah. The divine within you. Life is worth celebrating. Yeah. All the time. So, I'm going to grab Monty and Mike, move this harmonium out of the way, and talk with you.
All right. Here we are. Thanks everybody for joining us today on this live stream. If you want to watch this later or listen to this later, just check us out. Mindflow Radio. Mindflow Radio, wherever podcasts are found.
I'm shooting for 108 names. just like all the Hindu gods and goddesses, they have 108 names each.
Really?
So, we got IMI, Integrated Mindfulness Institute, IMI.Earth, Mindflow Radio, Mindflow Radio Podcast, Lotus Head, Lotus Head Music, Lotus Head Publications.
Oy vey.
Jalen, Jylan, Jai.
Okay.
Monty, Mondo, Lamont.
All right.
Yeah, we're ready.
All right. Welcome to Mindflow Radio.
Mindflow Radio.
Here we are.
Here we are.
She's Jalen.
And he's Monty. We have made it. One more week. I'll try that one again.
How you feeling?
I just got a couple frogs in my throat.
You think it's the vid?
No. It is the vid because there's one camera and there's another camera. There's this awesome setup
video.
here.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
I don't think the vid caught on except here in this house. I'm just going to move this mic for a moment. Hopefully it doesn't make too much noise.
So we're going to talk about mindful living today.
Yeah, so we're trying to get more organized here for something that's been super spontaneous. And so this show, Mindflow Radio, began, when was that? I think it was 2015? I want to say it was 2015.
Mindflow Radio?
Well, it started as Sunday Sadhana.
Oh, all right. Yeah.
WDRT.
Yeah, we had a radio show for 4 years before we started this podcast.
At least 4 years, I think.
Yeah. Maybe
it
over.
was 2015.
Okay. So we're going to talk about mindful living.
Yeah, we're talking about what this is.
Oh, okay.
So it started as a radio show on WDRT with the idea of mindful entertainment. And we have guests here and there as much as we can. And sharing mindful music and mindful living conversation.
So it's entertaining and educational.
Yeah.
I would say.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we did that once a month for 5 years, and then COVID hit and everybody got sent home. We couldn't go in the studio anymore, and we're like, well, shoot, let's make one. So we took a room and made it into a studio.
Yeah, and here we are.
And here we are. So we thought we'd just share, like, what is mindful living? What is a mindful living podcast? For anyone who's new, like if this is your first show or, your first podcast, your first mindful living podcast.
Well, in the bigger picture, mindful living, or what we try and do with this podcast is give tips and techniques and experiences that allow us to live and be more mindful throughout the day.
Yeah.
And the more mindful we are throughout the day, essentially, the more in balance our minds are, and the more in balance our emotions are, and the more equanimity that we embody.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the goal, at least my goal, I guess.
Yeah.
Is to help our culture evolve towards a more mindful kind of place.
Yeah. So we're sharing the vibe of being mindful. And what is mindfulness? I'll let you give your definition.
What is mindfulness? Mindfulness is a state of consciousness where, to be mindful is to have space between your thoughts, right? It's to access that transcendental place. You have the thinking mind, and the transcendental mind. The thinking mind is the analysis. It's us analyzing information, data. You know, in our culture, we're way caught up in the thinking mind, like more so we're out of balance. And what we're trying to do is get into that transcendental place where the mind is actually not thinking anymore, but just in a place of full on awareness. And I think if we can have a balance between the awareness and the analysis, those two components of the thinking or how our mind operates, if we can have a balance between the two, that's when we're mindful, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll share my definition.
Yeah.
So mindfulness, from my understanding, is a psychological state of awareness. So when we're being mindful, we are taking a break from the analysis, like he was saying, and therefore we're growing that mindfulness muscle in our brain, which exists for everyone. Some people have it naturally, and some people have to work at it. And I'd say probably most people have to work at it to train their brain. And you hear that a lot in different spiritual contexts because it's real, it's true. You have to train your brain. Otherwise, you're lost in the unconscious patterns of the past.
Yeah, just the old habits run your life,
Yeah.
essentially. And part of being mindful is to be the witness to those old patterns.
Right.
Actually.
Non-judgmental witness.
Yeah. And that's metacognition.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, mindful metacognition is being the witness to your own thoughts. It's noticing your thoughts from a mindful perspective. So you're not judging the thoughts, you're just noticing the thoughts. And then when the thoughts don't serve you, perhaps you're overthinking, you're caught up in rumination, perhaps you're caught up in negative thinking. If you mindfully notice that, then you can shift gears. If you have some mindfulness skills, you can reboot the mind, you can turn the thinking off, or you can re-steer the thought. And that's metacognition, which is super important and really a key to freedom. Because if we're trapped in our old habitual patterns of thinking, we're not free, we're stuck. But if we have that metacognition piece where we're the neutral witness, the problem is a lot of people identify with their thoughts rather than being the consciousness behind their thoughts. So if we identify with the consciousness behind the thoughts, that's an empowering place to be, because at that point we can steer the thinking. We determine the thoughts. So we're in charge of our thinking rather than our thinking being in charge of us. That's what mindfulness gives us. That's how mindfulness empowers us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so mindful living is the practice and art of bringing this into daily life. Mm-hmm. We work with people in person, on Zoom, on phones. We work with people to initiate practices that will help them in their own mindful living. And here we share mindful living with you.
Yeah.
So mindful living is, you know, like I said before, it's for some people it's super natural and they just, you know, lucked out, got the luck of the draw of souls and all that and are mindful naturally. But for a lot of us, we need to work it into our day. And for me, that also means how I'm entertained, what media I'm putting in my brain. You know, it's all about who I talk to. How do I talk with them? What language do I use? How do I talk to myself?
Yeah, that's a big one.
What media am I ingesting?
Yeah.
What am I reading? What am I seeing? What am I listening to?
The mental diet.
Yeah. And that's super big for mindful living. What do you do that you go, gee, I should stop doing that because it really interrupts my peace, you know? So mindful living is peaceful for the most part.
Yeah.
It's also just this great, like, like Monty was saying, the metacognition piece is really huge.
Yeah.
You know, to be able to go, gee, I'm being judgmental, and without continuing the judgment, right?
Right.
To stop and go, oh, okay, I'm being judgmental. I'm getting upset.
Yeah.
And
Well,
there's ways about this metacognition that I've been finding really cool, and I know it's from my understanding more of the Buddhist take on it, where you go, I feel anxiety, my heart is racing, my shoulders are tense, my tummy is twirling, I'm scared, I think I'll be okay, I'm taking a deep breath now.
mm-hmm.
I think it's called Stream of Consciousness, or I can't actually remember. Tara Brach is someone I've been listening to lately, and she talks about this a lot, and Gabor Mate also talks about this in Compassionate Inquiry. And I don't know if he's into Buddhism or not, but I hear that realm of being the witness where for somebody who experiences fight, flight, freeze a lot, you know, to be able to witness that would mean that you can witness your triggers. You witness what the trigger does in your body, how it feels. You witness how do you recover from that. You witness the mindful tricks that you put to work to interrupt the pattern.
Yeah. And in doing so, you're physically rewiring your brain.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like proof that there's like a shift going on.
Mm-hmm. That's one of the cool things of science, right?
Yeah, right.
Is this is a super ancient technique, like as old as people are, right? But now we have modern science, and they finally decided to study this stuff over the last 25, 30 years. And what was like totally woo-woo is now proven.
Yeah, and the exciting part is that we're at this place in history where we can consciously rewire our brains.
Mm-hmm.
We can consciously change the structure of our brains. Yeah, which is evolving.
Mm-hmm.
Frontal lobe actually gets thicker through this practice, through these practices. You know, and I should mention too that the way we work with mindfulness is we believe in mindfulness on the fly. In other words, using these skills just throughout the day as much as possible. You know, and developing that being in the place of the metacognition just throughout the day as much as possible.
As much as possible.
Yeah, right. And not being too hard on ourselves.
Right.
You know, when we're not there. But noticing, you know, I mean, how many people in our culture engage in negative self-talk and they don't even hardly notice it because it's so usual. It's been happening for years and years and years. So they just don't, it's just part of life. And it doesn't have to be that way. We can shift out of that, and we can feel better, and we can have more love in our hearts for ourselves.
Yeah.
Which is really step one.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a hard step one. I guess for me, I would say step one is noticing.
Oh yeah. Okay.
You know, acknowledging, witnessing. The metacognition piece is really a step one for me.
Yeah.
And the way that I work with myself and others. And I feel that step two is adopting and adapting with some mindful practices.
Yeah.
And there are so many. There are so many different ways to meditate. There are so many different movements to work with. There's different focuses, breath, posture, all of these.
Yeah.
It is so huge. One time we sat down, because 108 is one of my favorite numbers, and one time we sat down and wrote down 108 mindful skills that we were going to make something cool out of, you know.
Well,
I got that list somewhere, but I'm just saying it was pretty easy to make this list.
Yeah.
There's many, many, many mindful practices
yeah.
that
But
we can pick from.
I would say the king or queen of the mindfulness practice is that metacognition.
Oh yeah.
That's like the foundation.
Yeah,
Without
for
that,
sure.
yeah, and that's something we take with us wherever we go. And just a quick tip, something I use when I notice myself going into negative self-talk.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like let's say I made some kind of mistake. I'm like, oh, how could you have made that mistake? Oh no, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and just feeling that and feeling like frustrated and feeling perhaps guilty or shameful,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but what I try and do when I notice my mind going into that place and I mindfully notice this self-talk happening, I'll just say, you got this, brother.
Nice.
You got this, brother. You got this, brother.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing your best, brother. You got this, brother. You know, because that's the thing. We all make mistakes. And if we beat ourselves up every time, you know, it's this constant, we're at war with ourselves.
Yeah.
Where's the peace in that?
Right. We're
You know?
really lacking peace.
And like I said, this is a question of freedom. Do we want to be free from beating ourselves up?
Mm-hmm.
You know? Yeah. I think we all do. It's just a matter of knowing how to get out of that and being willing to put the effort in.
Yeah, and that's what I was talking about when I talk about all these mindful practices. I'm talking about beyond metacognition, like these shoot, I could go into a bunch of them, but I don't want to, because I want to just one. Okay, one of the ones that has been studied, empirically studied, and all that good stuff is how to get out of fight, flight, freeze. And what has been shown
So when you're triggered.
Yes. Okay. Anxious, whatever. I lost my place. Anyway, the idea is that you lengthen your exhale as long as possible. So the simple way is to inhale to the count of 4 and to exhale to the count of 8. And the idea is to not blow your air out really fast, but more slow down your exhale, where you're purposefully watching yourself exhale. And it's if it's hard to slow down your breath, you can purse your lips and imagine that you're exhaling through a straw. But the idea is that you are getting it slows your heart rate down very quickly. So if you're at a doctor's office and you need to get your blood pressure down before they check you, you know, this is a really great breath. I mean, this is a really great breath for meditating with, walking into the store with, you name it. This is one of my favorite mindful practices. And I don't like counting because that's just, I don't know. It trips my mind when it's too mechanical for me. I don't like to count. So for me, I inhale a mantra once and exhale the mantra twice. And for simplicity's sake, I'll share with you the most potent mantra, which is Om Tat Sat. So it's pretty hard to chant out loud while you inhale. So I'm not going to. But as I inhale in my mind, I'm saying Om Tat Sat. And then as I exhale out loud, I'll share with you that speed. Om Tat Sat, Om Tat Sat. When you're working with this one on your own, you want to imagine that you are equally saying Om Tat Sat in and equally out twice, if that makes sense. So we'll just give it a couple breaths and try it out. How's that sound? Okay. So inhale. Om Tat Sat. Om Tat Sat. Inhale. Om Tat Sat. Om Tat Sat. Inhale. Om Tat Sat. Om Tat, sat. We'll do one more breath. Tat, sat. Tat, sat. And if you just did that with us, just notice how you feel. You might feel more content, more at peace, more at ease in your body. You may have felt some parts of you relax. So that's one of my favorite. So when I was talking about practices, I encourage that you pick a practice for the morning and a practice for the evening. And then you do your best to weave them into your day as well. But to have the bookends of the morning and the evening, and like I said before, there's many, many, many to choose from. What's your favorite?
My favorite practice. Well, in the morning I do Tai Chi every morning, but I try and take that Tai Chi postural awareness with me throughout the day. And I think that's one of my, and that's been empirically proven too, that good posture translates into confidence in a clearer state of consciousness. So postural awareness is a big deal, I believe. And it's something, like I said, I try and, when I'm walking around town, I try and have my heart forward. You know, try and imagine my heart's kind of lit up, my head's up, my shoulders are up, back, and down. You know, when I'm standing, my knees are soft. I have navel support, as you call it, as much as possible. You know, but postural awareness is a really cool way for me to just be grounded and centered, and it helps me be more present in the moment. Because the other day, or a few years ago, actually, I was walking down the street and my head was down. I'm just kind of walking with my head down, and I was worried about something that might happen in the future, you know? And then I said to myself, what am I doing? What kind of energy am I putting out into the world? So I brought my head up, I brought my heart forward, and I continued walking, and I just felt so much better, so much more vital, so much more just had this knowing, this internal knowing that I was adding some positive energy into the collective energy of the world. That's another way of looking at all these practices. You know, what kind of energy are we emanating? And what, in other words, if my energy is like low vibration, if I'm full of anger and self-hatred or whatever, I'm emanating this lower type of energy that
heavy.
Yeah, and it
dense.
connects up with all this other lower types of energy. And then lo and behold, I am part of the war machine at that part, you know, at that time.
Sure.
And I think collectively, if we keep that in mind, that we can be a part of this collective energetic reality, that it probably is a physical thing, that it helps motivate me. But just by being in that place of postural awareness as much as possible, I just in general feel better.
Yeah.
I guess from a hedonistic perspective.
Yeah. So these are what he just shared is kind of how you carry it into the day.
Yeah.
And what I was sharing is one bookend, right? One choice of a bookend, but I'm saying that is so key to start and end your day with mindful awareness.
Well, yeah, and your technique too is also a type of technique you can just call in when you need it. When you're feeling triggered.
Yep.
Go into a deep exhale along with mantra if you want.
Yep. Yeah, and then the other part of the mindful living piece, and we talked about the media diet or the media mental diet. Another piece of this is contemplation, and how do we think with open minds, and how do we look at this world that is very confusing and very divided, and there's a lot of sides that we can pick on any given subject.
Yeah.
And how do we do this with full-on awareness? How
Yeah.
do we make wise decisions for ourselves? We contemplate mindfully. So that's pretty much what this show is about, is us sharing our contemplations and us sharing our mindful living vibe with you.
Yeah.
And we love hearing from our listeners and what do you call it? Interconnecting, interrelating. I'm not getting the word communicating
Yeah.
with our friends and our community. What do you want to contemplate? What are you curious about? How is there something that you want to know about that? How do I look at this in a mindful way? You know, so
Yeah.
you know, we're always asking for that feedback. I'm really not pulling the word that I want here. I don't know what it is, but
Well,
interaction. I remember interaction. Whoop, whoop.
yeah, and as part of mindful thinking, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, just a play.
Well,
like
yeah.
I say something, you say something back, right?
Yeah,
like
well,
that's
I mean, part of a mindful perspective too. I think this is important. It's something that's kind of lacking in our culture is when you had mentioned openness and open-mindedness. And an open-mindedness allows us to like notice new variables when they present themselves, and maybe our belief shifts a little bit as new variables present themselves. And another aspect of our perspective, a mindful aspect, is like a sense of humility, I believe. And that helps our mind be more open. Where it's like, well, I believe this, but maybe I'm not right.
Yeah.
I know I believe it. And then if new variables come in, now I believe this. I mean, it's not a wishy-washy thing, but it's an open-minded thing and it's being in a place of humility instead of like, I know the answers. And then once you get into that place, it's like when people connect, they believe they are their thoughts, right? So these ideas, your thoughts, turn to be super important if you believe you are them.
Yeah, no doubt.
And you don't want to like switch your ideas because then you like cease to exist. But if you just don't take your ideas so seriously, it's like, well, I think this is true, but I'm not, most likely it's true. I'm just getting at like developing a level of humility in our thinking.
Absolutely.
And it is important to have an open mind.
And I think
it's an important component.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that you say belief, because in my mind, belief is like a pretty deep piece of yourself that sometimes you don't even know what it is. Like how you act to yourself and how you treat others. You may not even know the belief that is steering that ship, but in this kind of living, right, you pick your beliefs and then work towards them. Like if your belief is that love is the answer, right? Like it could be a simple belief that covers a lot of ground, right?
Yeah.
Love is the answer.
That's a beautiful belief.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's like really ancient. And a lot of spiritual and religious texts talk about this, loving the self, loving others. But it can be really hard if you've had a lot of trauma. So picking this belief takes effort. It takes an open mind. It takes being the witness of your thoughts. It takes the practices that book in your day. It takes how you walk through your day.
Yeah. Well, what you're saying is it takes willpower.
It takes willpower, absolutely.
To like shift your belief if you consciously want to believe that.
Yeah, and in the metacognition piece, starting to realize what beliefs are in the way.
Yeah, exactly.
And so this work, no matter how long you've been doing it, there's always more to learn. there's always more ways of interconnecting with others. There's always more reflection that can be had on those unconscious beliefs that sneak up and bite you in the butt. You know, it's
Yeah. It's sort of like you're a detective when you're
Yes,
really involved with
absolutely.
metacognition. It's like, where does that old habit come from?
right.
Where does that old belief come from? And then you can
Yeah,
like think about it and try and
absolutely.
figure it out and see if it serves you or not. It's like, oh, I guess that old belief doesn't serve me anymore.
Right,
I'm going to let it go.
right,
But then that's where the willpower comes in.
right.
Because it's going to keep re-emerging into your consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
But when it emerges, if you reboot it or re-steer it consciously, then what you're doing is you're creating new neural connections in your brain
Mm-hmm.
till the new belief emerges. And then the new belief is essentially all these new neural highways
Mm-hmm.
in your brain.
Right.
And then it's easy because you've done it. You've done the work. You've created new beliefs that that you've consciously chosen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's important too. That's super important, I think, because if you look at the media, you look at Facebook, you have all these people trying to tell you how to believe.
And just our culture.
Yeah, well, the educational system, the whole thing, it's like, this is what you need to believe. And it's like, wait a minute, I want to choose that for myself.
Right. Yeah. And another piece that just popped in my head about that is that these things are just so deeply entwined that it takes a really big level of willpower, like we're talking about, a big level of metacognition, and just being that humility piece, the curiosity piece. Like maybe I'm right, and maybe there's more factors that I don't know yet.
Yeah.
Maybe they're right. Maybe we're all right, and we're just missing the pieces that weave this all together.
Yeah, maybe reality is beyond words and concepts to begin with.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Yeah. And I know there was more to that thought, but I kind of lost it. That's where scripting comes in, right, Jeremy? Yeah, so this show, just to kind of bring it back to the subject of Mindful Living podcast, is wrapping all of that up that we just talked about into sharing it with you, because we have the more we communicate and commune with others in a mindful way, the more we spread this vibe. And so that was our intention, is to just bring this mindful entertainment, mindful contemplation, mindful music, mindful tips and tricks, and share it with you, so you have something to, it's like a TV show where everybody watches the TV show and then they talk about it at work. It'd be really cool to get to that level of mindful living being the thing that we talk about at break with our coworkers and at dinner with our family, and talk about willing a conscious evolution. What kind of a world would we create if we could witness each other without judgment, and be curious on what pieces of truth do you have that I want to add to my pieces of truth, so that I understand more of the picture, and just that willingness to hear each other out, and all these beautiful things.
And the willingness to be compassionate to ourselves.
Yep.
And others.
Yep. Yeah. So do you have any more thoughts on mindful living? What it means to you in this podcast?
It's well, the saying that pops to mind is, the path is the destination.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can get on this path of mindful living, of metacognition, and working it, training, it's just a super rewarding path to be on for myself.
Yeah.
And I've seen it transform people as well, others through my work. I mean, it's helped transform me, and that's my job as I go out there and I try and help people transform themselves, help people evolve their brains, help people become more compassionate towards themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just a win-win-win, actually. And I think something you've been talking about, the mental diet is a big component to living mindfully nowadays.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and really noticing your screen time habits and
Yeah.
you know, and being kind to yourself about it, not beating yourself up.
Mm-hmm. Just notice how it feels.
Yeah.
I am one of those super sensitive people that I can hear a scary scene coming. If somebody's watching a movie, I can hear it coming because, you know, music is so powerful. And you know, young people and their music and and the vibes with that and maybe not just young people, but I've got my son is home and his music selection sometimes is like
yeah, it's interesting.
They stun me.
Well,
you know?
music is,
so it's like music is really important, and it's actually hard to find mindful music. And so I'm always on the lookout for mindful music that's got meaning and soothes me and encourages peace and calm inside of me. So that's why we sing the songs we do, because they bring me peace.
Well, that's essentially why I practice music, is because it shifts the energy inside me.
Yeah.
And music is cool that way because it is a vibration.
Mm-hmm.
Technically, you know, the speakers are vibrating and sending these vibrations out into the world.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very directly a vibration. And yeah, when music is,
and it's fine to be open-minded to all kinds of music, but notice how it feels in your body. Notice the little pieces. Like, does your nervous system like this?
Yeah, notice what messaging is like sinking into your consciousness too.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that's important.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's fine, you know, if it's not actual mindful entertainment, mindfully witness the entertainments that you're engaging in and just notice how does it feel and how did you sleep that night and what kind of dreams did you have, and you know, just all that in it to become more, to bring this mindful idea into your life more and more. And the show has now become a weekly show, so we're bringing more and more contemplations to you, and our wish is that you share it with your friends and you share it with your family, and like I said, you talk about it at break, at work, or you talk about it with your friends, and you start having these mindful contemplations in your life out loud with those around you, so that you're a part of shifting our culture's vibration.
Yeah, and just be that neutral witness, be the consciousness behind your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
You know that you are the projector of your thoughts. You're not the thoughts themselves, and you know that's a good way to. That's like having a conversation with yourself.
Oh, and we all do that. You know,
you want to notice it. Notice that self-talk. Yeah,
we all do that. I think that's so funny because I talk out loud to myself, maybe too openly sometimes, and you know, sometimes someone will say, you know, you're talking out loud, and I'm like, yeah, I do. I know that I'm talking to myself out loud. And I think they even said something at one point that the most intelligent people do talk to themselves out loud. I think it's because they're not worried about it. Like, they're just like, I'm on my path doing my thing and I'm sorting something out loud. So we all do it. If you notice yourself doing it, that's good. Keep doing it. And I feel that we've shared a lot of specific tips with you today. So I don't know. Do you want to do anything else?
No, maybe just review.
Yeah.
Okay. So we talked about what mindfulness is, and we talked about that the metacognition piece of being the consciousness behind the thoughts and witnessing your thoughts from a mindful perspective. We talked about posture. We talked about mantra and breathing. What is that mantra again?
Om Tat Sat.
And you talked about if you're feeling triggered, inhaling and saying that once, and then exhaling and saying it twice
Mm-hmm.
as a way of coming back to equanimity,
Mm-hmm.
which is emotional regulation. That's an emotional regulation skill, by the
Mhm.
way. So we talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
We reviewed the mental diet,
Mm-hmm.
self-talk, how important that is,
Contemplation.
finding space between the thinking,
Mm-hmm. I feel like there's more.
I'm sure.
We talked about a lot today.
Music,
Yep, mindful music, mindful entertainment.
being part of the solution
Sharing with
rather than the
others.
problem.
Yeah, how we talk to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, and sharing. I think that's a kind of a key here is sharing with our friends is really important. And sometimes they may not know about it and they wish they did. And you could be that person to let someone know that this kind of support is out there, this kind of entertainment is out there, this kind of podcast exists, and they might be looking for it. They might be wishing for something like this. So this could be a real gift that is very easy to share.
Yeah, this time can be seen as potentially really valuable if you apply it, if you use it in your day-to-day life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And back to that community piece, we'd love to hear from you. We would love to hear from you. So this is on YouTube and Facebook, and you can go to our website, www.imi.earth. However you most prefer to communicate, give us a shout. Let us know that you're here with us, and let us know what you want to talk about. Let us know what curiosities you have or what you're working with. What is your obstacle that you think that we could help sort out with you? So,
Yeah, and we are all in this together.
yeah.
I mean, all of us have issues. All of us have had trauma.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a continuum. So essentially, we're all in the same boat. And the way the world can potentially evolve is a bunch of us work together consciously on progressing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you use some of these tips and you find yourself feeling better, we're connected.
Yeah,
We're connected.
totally. We're like the little neurons that find each other and make a new thread of nerves.
Love that.
Yeah. All right, y'all. I hope that was worth your time, and we enjoyed sharing with you. And I think I'm feeling pretty complete.
Yeah.
Are you feeling complete?
Yes.
All right, we'll be back next week at possibly noon. We'll let you know. And you can always sign up for the newsletter, imi.earth. And I definitely will not be sending you too many emails because I'm not very good at sending them at all. So I'll do my best.
We shoot for once a week.
Yeah, I missed this week. So, oops. But we have lots of things going on. And Monty has a book if you want to check out some more mindful tips.
Yeah, it's a book and a workbook.
Mm-hmm.
The Mindfulness Handbook, 4th edition.
Yeah, so you can get that through the website or on Amazon.
Yeah.
And yeah, may you find your peace. May you find your calm. May you steer into the mindful present moment and enjoy it. And yeah, my one last tip is if you feel bored, question that. Is that just what you've learned to call bored? Because it could be a really beautiful moment to just sit and relax. So just take some time to be at peace today, tomorrow, next day. And we'll be back next week.
Right. Have a productive week.
Yeah. Namaste. Satnam. Aho. Amen.
All right. I'm going to set up the keyboard now.
Oh, I think we're done.
Oh, we're done? Okay,
Yeah,
that's cool.
That's what I was
That's
asking.
cool. No, that's fine.
Ow. Ow, ow, ow.
And we're still
Are
if
we?
you want to do another song, yeah.
No.
Oh,
It's up to you.
I know I'm hurting.
Missed yourself.
All right. Cut her off then.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we went over 30.